Hi there, I'm Matt Kinch, the founder of AdventureDesk, and you're listening to the S.M.E Stories podcast.
You are now listening to the next great small business podcast. Welcome to the S.M.E Stories podcast, where it is all about small businesses in Canada. And here's your host, Ken Alfred.
Hey everybody, thanks for on the show. We got a great episode today with Matt Kinch from AdventureDesk.com. Now a little bit about what AdventureDesk.com does actually. So they actually specialize in curated adventures, group retreats, and other experiences. Now this includes a couple of different things. Now this could be either an event, a workshop, or a training. Now some of the events that they've taken place where they've actually took people to is actually places like Vancouver, Canada, Cusco, Peru, and Utah, USA. Now, in terms of what you can do there, a lot of it could be for team building. A lot of it could be for, historical storytelling. So it's a lot of interesting things that they actually do. And some of their training workshops that they've done have been focused on crisis response and first aid and risk assessment and liability. So it's actually going to be a very interesting episode today because we're kind of going into a different realm, because usually we've had maybe travel agencies in the past, maybe that's kind of talked about this, but this is actually one that specializes where their clientele could be actual business leaders that takes their teams on all these different adventures. And they really picked a really great niche for this one. So I actually met Matt at a fitness conference here over the past year or so. If you listen to our episodes from Pete from Golf Forever and Eric from Board Games, this is the same conference where I actually met Matt as well. So it's going to be an interesting episode here. So sit back and absorb. All right, guys, we have Matt Kinch from AdventureDesk. Matt, how you doing?
Doing great. Happy to be here.
Now it's time for tips from the pro.
All right, let's get to the tips from the pro segment here. So, all right, so these are people who are maybe similar, either wants to get into your space or even the travel space, because you're not just for AdventureDesk, but you also have just general travel experience, travel agency experience as well. So, all right, so question number one there, Matt. So, all right, I'm a newbie. How do I kind of separate myself from the competition from all the other travel agencies, or even if I want to try to be as unique as yourself, how do we separate ourselves?
Yeah, well, I think it's such a common cliched term, but just finding your niche was probably the most important thing for us. And I mean, I'm still in the process of doing that. There's some growing and some growing that needs to happen to really be able to prove that. But part of the reason you found me at a wellness conference was exactly that I just don't want to be travel for everybody. I want to really be seeking out specific types of clients and, focusing on them. And so most of my communication is really around community, is around wellness, is around bringing people together, and the power of travel on clubs, community and organizations. So most travel companies, if you look at whether that's motor coach tours in Europe or adventure trips, like they're just talking about the destination. They're just talking about what's the next place that's the next hotspot. And so I tend not to talk so much about that as where's a cool place to go cold plunging and saunas and those kind of things, because I know that wellness folks are into that right now. And what's the next challenge? We don't talk so much. We refer to more so than a trip. It's like what's a challenge? Like hiking a mountain is the challenge that you're preparing someone for, and how to integrate that. And so that, and then trying to help them solve the organizing your community piece. And that's another thing, is that if you've never planned a group trip before, that process can be really overwhelming. So this is where we're a partner. You don't have to know about the destination. I can talk about the destination. You just have to bring the community to us. We'll sell the trip, make sure that everyone has a great time. And we want to make that as simple as possible for the person that's ready to take that jump.
No, that's great. Because, it leads on to our second question here about niches, right? Now, you found a very particular one. So for someone, let's say, is brand new to this, they're like, okay, I want to do something, a little bit similar to Matt. So is there any other, I guess, I wouldn't say I guess maybe I'll say it, smaller niches that might be some, I wouldn't say easy, but simple, quick wins that maybe someone can maybe tap into first before they expand it. Because you're talking, look at where all you can go already. Like you're
Yeah.
almost all over the world. And some people might look at that, they get overwhelmed that I want to do it, but oh man, that's crazy. But is there anything maybe I can start off small with, like maybe steps that
Yeah.
maybe will get my feet wet that I can slowly start to expand out?
Yeah, I think you have to start with the types of places and experiences that you actually want to sell, because you're going to be doing a lot of it. So if you're really not, I'm not that excited about motor coach tours, right? And so even if there's a big market for it, it's not really the thing that I'm excited about doing. And so trying to find the companies and organizations that are doing those types of things. That's how I got started in the industry. I was actually working in a small group adventure tour company. And so I started to learn the ins and outs of the business. And there's a lot of travel jobs out there that are already dealing with those markets. So if you just want to get your feet wet, you can certainly get an inside sales role starting to do those type of things. But then just finding the companies that are doing the things that you want to be doing. And most, even if I didn't want to work with companies at the local level, there's a handful of companies in North America and Europe that you could partner with that run those types of trips or experiences and would pay a travel agent a commission for doing that type of thing. So, you really want to develop your product line or the types of things that you want people, you want to be selling to people. And if you don't really know about that, then find a way to start learning about it, right? And so, get trained by a company. That was for me when I started. I came right out of college. I had never traveled, and I started working in sales for this adventure travel company, and so I learned a lot about travel in the process.
Yeah, but no, that's a great idea actually, because I think for some people feeling that, okay, yeah, the show that we're talking about S.M.E stories and, starting your own side gig or full-time gig, but there is nothing wrong with, like you said, that you like a particular industry, in this case, the travel industry and the adventure industry, and say, okay, if you're worried about making a lot of mistakes, like we all are, making mistakes, we're going to make mistakes regardless. I don't care how prepared you are, you're going to make a mistake. But even taking something as simple as whether it's a part-time job role or, you contract yourself out to say, hey, let me just try to, to learn under these other companies. And, for let's say 3-6 months or whatever, however the training is, and then branching off your own, because then you're not really starting from scratch of like product knowledge. It's like, okay, I already kind of know this, and now I can expand that out. And I love the fact that you said focus on what you actually like. So if for some reason the only demand for a newbie is moto tours, that you're not you don't do those anymore, you enjoy selling to those, that could be something to start with, right? If that's what you really enjoy as well, and then slowly start to expand out, right? So that's a really good hint here. So next question is, how do you actually stay updated with the current trends, right? Because right now, like you said, it's a great problem to have where the demand for travel has gone up exponentially at this point, because now people just want to go out. We were cramped, we were stuck at home for a couple of years. Now we want to go somewhere. So how do you stay updated with these things?
Yeah, it seems I find it now, as I've been in the industry so long, hard to give the specific steps, because you just kind of incrementally grow and are connected with more and more people. But trade publications are on my LinkedIn feed and my Facebook feed constantly. So every time, LinkedIn is almost like a place where I start my day, because everyone that I've worked in the industry is there. The trade publications, articles, and blogs are there. So that just kind of keeps me up to date with what's going on.
Can you specify a few of those publications just for the listeners?
Yeah, so for the travel industry, I would say the best publication you can follow is Skift, skift.com. They are specifically, travel trade insights, and it's probably the biggest trade publication in the world, whether it's airlines, hotels, travel. And there's a handful of them. Any travel section of any news publication that you're looking at, whether it's CNN travel or something like that, is a great way to stay abreast of what's going on. Government websites are always up. So whether it's the Canadian government travel website, US is still kind of what's happening in the US affects all of us. So looking at the US travel.gov is a go-to place for anyone that is traveling. As a travel agent, just legally, I have to advise people on all the visa requirements and entry requirements of any country they go to, and so I have to be referring to those websites on a regular basis. And then, of course, my local partners and network are keeping me up to date on what's going on in every destination we're operating in.
Wow, that's pretty cool. So I'm glad you provide those resources. And I guess last two questions on Tips for the Pro here. So someone wants to start focusing on picking a particular region. Where do you suggest as the lower cost regions versus the higher cost regions? What's that sliding scale? So if someone wanted to start off smaller, they might not pick Iceland to go on their first event or to try to sell that to. Do you suggest going with more local stuff first, or do you want to expand out? Is there any other, whether it's North America, South America, what are the regions that, is a little bit more affordable to maybe start trying to sell to, assuming that's what you want to do, versus the really expensive regions? Because you, like you said, you've done all over the world. So what advice would you have for that?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I would tell them to start selling the destinations they want to be selling. I mean, if you just looking at Canada, for example, or where we are, we don't typically tend to think of talking to a travel agent about traveling in our own country or in our own region. It seems like, okay, we have the language down pat. A car rental is fairly easy. We know how to book a hotel. So apart from that, it's also a very low margin opportunity, and so you're not going to make that much money off of something like that, and chances are there's not as much of a market in your own local spot. Maybe for foreigners coming into your country that's an opportunity, but what I would start with if I'm very new to the space is finding out the companies, the travel companies out there that are running the trips that you like, or to the destinations you like, and selling their trips at a commission. Low risk, because you don't need to know all of the people organizing those. Those are pre-arranged packages with dates and departures available, and you'll be able to make a commission on that, maybe a little bit lower than us when we're customizing and curating it. But those great, much larger travel companies out there are also good at what they do, right? And so they know the trips that are going really well. Travel companies, operators, they rely on the travel agent community a lot, and so they put the time and energy in to train people on the destinations, their style of travel, lots of webinars, lots of resources to help agents. And so finding those companies, reaching out to them, almost any group travel, adventure travel company is generally, they'll generally have some resources for agents and people getting into the industry to help you sell.
Wow. Okay. Good to hear. So, all right, the last question just from the pro here before we hit the rapid fire round is, what is your best strategy to deal with, I guess, difficult communities or difficult clients that you have to work with?
Yeah, I mean, you have to anticipate the things that are going to be an issue. A lot of that, for me, working on the local level, I lived over 10 years in South America, and so this is dealing with large travel companies. So any number of complaints, issues, headaches, you start to get prepared pretty quick, and the right questions to ask and anticipate. Something I've done that has really helped, because we haven't really been dealt with too many situations where we've had difficult communities or clients. But when I work with a community, I'll hold a Zoom info night where we present the trip, and then I'll do a follow-up of preparing them for the trip. And so we really try and cover as much as possible before they arrive into the destination, so that they're not hit with too many surprises. We're not trying to, show them everything they're going to see before they see it. but it's certainly making sure that everybody has the information they need to have an enjoyable trip. And so that's sometimes hard for larger travel companies. And that's why being niche is a benefit for me right now, is I can speak to every single traveler. I can speak to every single community, and the larger travel organizations just can't do that. And so I'm going to leverage that for as long as possible.
Okay, no, that's great. I love the fact that you do like Zoom webinars or training sessions to get everyone ready. And I just thought of the last question. Actually, I wasn't planning on asking this, but I just totally thought about it as listening to you speak here. So, how do you vet a local operator? Or are there any red flags that, let's say, someone's trying to reach out to a local operator? Let's say I want to focus in whatever region you want.
Yep.
Is there anything that someone should be, that's be like, okay, that might be an issue of, because the last thing they want is, like you said, when you hear the complaints, people complain of a lot of things. Oh, they didn't provide food, or it wasn't well organized. We were waiting to leave from the venue for an hour instead of it didn't leave on time. So are there any red flags that you see when you're vetting a local operator, whatever region?
Yeah. I mean, number one is response time. If they can't get back to you in a timely manner, and I'm not talking about like respond within the hour or like answer everything, but if I'm not getting a response from them in 24 hours, at least to acknowledge that they've received something, because every travel business right now is dealing with an incredibly high demand. But someone that can respond to any of your emails or questions in a timely manner is number one requirement, and that's how I know I have a good operator. And so if days go by and they get to it, then that is absolutely a red flag. I mean, I'm trying to think, because we absolutely have had some red flags with operators, and still had to push forward because it's a unique location or destination. But yeah, if I look at response time, that's going to tell you everything that you need to know later on.
Exactly, because they're going to be coming to you, right? Because especially if you've organized all the logistical stuff to get it going, if the local operator is just, everyone's unhappy for whatever reason, whether, like I said, they're just sitting there waiting and they don't know where we're going, or they don't even know what, like you said, if they have a question, the operator didn't even sound like they know what they're talking about. That's going to come back onto you, right? So I think that's a very crucial step. Yeah. I think what maybe some people might be worried about is that, I found a company that can handle this particular region, this particular thing. Okay, great. I'm just going to go with them, right? Just to say that, hey, we have a location here that's awesome. But if you don't vet them properly, it sours on, and then that whole 100% retention rate of taking a trip every single year, that's not going to be less than 100%, right? So
and I mean, you need to look at whether it's their Google reviews or testimonials, but you can't trust their website. They're going to show the best of you. So oftentimes, if it's a new place that I haven't had a trip in before, I'm really looking for a personal recommendation from someone in my network. If I don't know someone personally that's running that business, then I'm asking someone that I know to recommend, because it's just that you have to take care of your clients, and you can't leave these things up to chance. And if you get into that situation, you got to make it right. So whatever the cost, in the end, it's your fault, because you're the one that partnered with that operator, and so you can't play the blame game. And if you do, you're basically saying goodbye to that partnership, and it's so hard to get a client. And I think that's one thing that new businesses and startups really appreciate, is those first clients that they get. You understand the importance of them, and when you work in a big company and the phone's ringing off the hook and you're getting so many leads and you can't keep up with it, founders tend to remember a time when the phone wasn't ringing, and how important each individual was to the growth of that business.
Oh man, look at that. I found another question. Oh my God, this is going to take longer than I thought. Okay, so what is a good trip funnel for someone starting? So how many trips should they have kind of booked? Because obviously the goal, you want to start to have a certain number of trips because of all the details that it can be, that are there, right? Because yes, you have all your local operators, but in terms of managing all these trips, in your personal opinion, when you're starting out, how many trips should you at least have put in your funnel to say, okay, we've booked X number of trips. How many should you be able to handle at once for it to feel like more of a, okay, yay, we got one client. Now it's like, okay, how do we deal when we have for suddenly an increase in demand? So what is your best recommendation on how many trips you should have?
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the size of your team. I'm really thinking before I'm bringing on additional staff that, I think we have the capacity to be running 30 or so trips a year, 30 or so groups. I mean, there's going to be that's definitely going to put some pressure on the system. Not so much the actual trip experience, because as long as it's not 30 in the same place at the same time, generally when we're doing 30 trips, in most cases, 2 or 3 are with one destination or operator, and so they're all dealing with far greater numbers than we are in terms of where they're going. But kind of the person that's trying to build the business, get the clients, to me, at around 25 to 30 is where I really need to be thinking of additional staff and support and focus more than anything. It's like, okay, we need to focus on those clients. So someone else needs to be working on our social stuff, and someone else needs to be thinking about accounting, and, whether that's employees or other companies that you're partnering with to help you with that. You need to start taking other things off of your plate so that you don't lose that focus.
Well, yeah, that's the thing too, right? Because it's not just selling the trip. It's having the details, kind of planning the trip, right? Because I think the challenge you're going to have is, like you said, if you're a solopreneur, you're kind of doing everything. You're not just selling to the group and selling the packages or the trips that you're looking at wanting to do. You're making sure that it corresponds with your local operators, that, okay, we have a group of X number of people. We're looking at, we want to go to your area. We're looking at doing this kind of adventure in your area. Let's work the dates and let's make sure we have all those details planned, because you can't just say, yeah, well, let's go to Peru, everybody. And everyone's going to be like, yay, Peru. What are we going to do there? And then you want to make sure you're customizing it to your client to saying, oh, we want to do this, that, and the other. So that's good to have that. So it's not just selling the client. There's a lot of stuff in between that you got to do. So, okay. Yeah. All right. Now I got to stop with the business stuff questions. We're going to try to do
so much more here to talk about.
No, the hour flies by. We're almost at an hour already. So
now it's time for the rapid fire round.
All right, more of the fun stuff here. So first question for the rapid fire round here is, what is your best work-life balance strategy?
I think I really created AdventureDesk around my lifestyle. So, it's important to me right now. I've got young kids, 4 and 6 years old. I want to be around them. I want to be around them as much as possible during this time. I care about travel. Travel is absolutely an important part of my life, and so is wellness. And so basically I created a business around all of those things that I can do from home. So, before I was jumping on this podcast, I walked my kids to school. I'll be picking them up later this afternoon. So I have to go hard in between that time and make the best of it. But being able to do this from home, having no commute issues, anything like that, it really allows me to make sure that I'm seeing and spending some time with my kids and my wife every single day, and then I'm not just coming home after a long day of work and kind of crashing for 2 hours, and so the balance is really just prioritizing what things are important. And so those things, my own personal wellness, my business, and my family are kind of the things that I'm focusing the most on. And so not getting sidetracked by other things. And the work from home part certainly allows that, because you're not every day, you're not out into the world getting pulled in different directions by other people. It's allowed me to just keep my focus. Balance, there's certainly none of it. It's leaning one direction or another every single day, but I know those are my priorities. And so I'm doing a fairly good job. Again, lots of room to improve on every one of them, but I'm okay with where we're at.
All right. No, excellent. All right. Next question here. What would the 15-year-old self be thinking you'd be doing now?
Oh man. No clue. It definitely wouldn't be this. I don't even I think when I was 15 years old, I mean, I guess if I bumped it up to around 17, I could tell you that my main goal was to be a ski bum and just be skiing all the time and going. Well, that's what got me into tourism and travel. Is I really started as using that job as a means to ski and out west and just get a job in a hotel or something like that. And I ended up not doing that and getting into travel organizations. But that was it was more about the things that I like to do, skiing and being outdoors and stuff like that. But I was one of those kids that had no idea what they wanted to do with their life, and while everyone else, already had that idea in their heads. So it took a while.
No, that's all right. And I joke with the fact that, my nephews, they're skiers in BC right now. And they're, one of them, he makes money part-time. He's only like 13 or something like that, waxing skis. And I asked him, so why do you wax skis? Oh, to go faster. Well, then I just ended my career saying, yep, I don't think I'm going to be skiing, just because I'm one of those guys that I don't even know how to ski properly. So waxing my skis to go faster would be like,
you don't need that right now.
Unless you want to see little kids, I'll be on the bunny slope going down, and you want to see kids flying all over the place. It's like a bowling ball going through those kids. That's what most likely is going to be me if I don't know how to stop. So I don't think I need any wax on my skis. So, all right, next question. Now you've been in the travel industry so long, but from a personal level, what has been your favorite or best travel destination you personally ever went on?
The Galapagos Islands is pretty high up there for me. And I spent a bunch of time there, but I still remember my first trip to Galapagos. And for those that don't know, the Galapagos are a set of islands off of the coast of Ecuador. Darwin came up with his evolution theory there by visiting the different islands and seeing some of the flora and fauna and coming up with those concepts. But oftentimes we watch nature documentaries and National Geographic and see these animals, and you try and go to the place and they're little specks in the distance. You don't get that close. But I still remember the first time I put a set of snorkeling goggles and fins on and jumped off the boat. And as soon as I got my goggles in the water and seeing sharks swimming right below me, manta rays and sea turtles, it was just a wow moment, and never forget it. And it's a place I love to go back to. I worked in Ecuador for a few years, so I got to be up close and personal with it. But my first trip was just kind of a leisure trip on my own, and absolutely incredible. It blew my mind, and everyone I think would love it.
You swam with sharks? You one of your first trips?
Sharks, whale sharks, lots of stuff. It was unbelievable. Sea lions, yeah, it was cool.
I'd be worried about being around anything that can eat a human. So the fact that you are very brave, my friend, to go around those sharks. Now, they might be smaller sharks, but still, like, last thing I want is something bite on my butt for some reason when I'm trying to swim. And, that's great. I'm like, wow, unbelievable. So, okay, next question here. I always ask to tell my guests, what is on your sandwich and what would you call it?
What am I putting on my sandwich? And what would I call it? I think there has to be some smoked meat on there, some spicy mustard, maybe a little bit of caramelized onions, and some arugula to put a little bit of green on there.
On what bread?
I think it's either going to be probably just a baguette style bun, something like that is firm enough to hold all of that, but soft enough when you chew it.
So it doesn't scratch the inside of your mouth.
That's right. I don't like the scratchy.
No. And what would you call it?
Oh damn, I don't know. I'm not that creative for it.
Clearly you're creative because you're creating a whole new business here. So you must be creative in it.
I have a hard time with names. I have to tell you that the one part of the creative process is where it comes to naming something. I'm like, oh damn. So I'll leave that to the audience to decide what to call it.
Well, we'll ask the listeners to what do they think they should call this sandwich that you have there. So I forgot to ask as well, what is your guilty pleasure?
What is my guilty pleasure? Definitely, I am an absolute coffee fanatic. So I basically drink black coffee all morning up until about noon, and then I stop. So that's kind of the one thing I can't live without. A good Negroni or an old fashioned is something I enjoy as well, with a night out, but try and cut back on those things. But yeah.
What brand of coffee what brand of black coffee do you like?
So after living in South America for a long time, there's a Colombian brand. It might be in certain parts of North America, probably more in the US than in Canada, called Juan Valdez. Juan Valdez is epic coffee. Really, really good stuff. And then there's some other niche coffee brands in Ecuador and Peru and Colombia that I like. But that would be one of the more popular ones. If I go to South America, the Juan Valdez is kind of like the local Starbucks equivalent. So that's my go-to place, and it's amazing.
Have you ever seen those commercials? This is from a few years ago. I remember seeing this where they went to like Colombia or one of those really, they grow the coffee there, and they tried to show them coffee with like whipped cream and sprinkles and ask the locals to drink it. And they're just like,
yep,
what is this? Right. So you're not one of those kind of guys. You're like,
no. So on that point, we did a coffee experience, and the Colombians will tell you that the unique thing about coffee is that you'll never send bad coffee back. You'll just ask for milk and sugar. And so really good coffee, you should be able to drink black, and it should taste good. And so, and it's true. You never actually, it could be the worst coffee ever. And if it's that bad, you really just put some milk and sugar into it. But I live off of black coffee, and I always remembered that. And I think it's totally true.
That's a really good thing to think about. I never thought about it. No one ever returns coffee unless it's really cold. For some reason, you're asking for hot coffee, it's cold or whatever. But all right, last question here is, okay, what is your theme song and why? So that song hits, you're walking down the street, everyone knows that Matt's coming.
What is my theme song? Damn. I'll go with the classic Journey, Don't Stop Believing.
Ooh, love that song. Can't go wrong with that. So,
yeah, you can't go wrong with it.
All right. So last question for anyone. So what is your tip, your advice for anyone who's contemplating starting their own adventure, whether it's a side gig, a full-time adventure, or any business altogether? What is your best advice that you can give to anyone?
I think number one, it's going to take longer than you think, and so one, you need to prepare for that aspect of it, and I think for us, that's normally a financial thing, figuring out what is your runway, how much time you have. I refuse to go into debt to do this, and I was lucky enough that my wife's working and able to kind of cover most of our expenses. We ended up buying a home in a small town called Brockville in the Thousand Islands, and buying a house here and running the business from home has really given me a long runway in all of this. I think, just cost of living in Canada right now, in the GTA specifically, I just don't know how I would ever be able to do this. And so I've really realized that I think there's a lot of great ideas out there, and people that would love to create a business and have a lot to contribute. And I think they get tied down with the lack of income. And so those things don't happen. And, I can't imagine how I would do this if I lived in the Greater Toronto area. I think it'd be impossible, or I'd be in a lot of debt and then stress, and that's going to affect my creativity. And so figure out your runway, probably double it, and just figure out how you're going to deal with that part of things. Because I think that money stress, at least for me, I can't have that. I can't feel like I'm risking my family or putting those challenges on us if I want to be good at what I'm doing right now and be creative.
Oh, great advice. Yeah, because I think people might just jump to the conclusion of throw a bunch of money at this thing and then
Yeah.
and eventually it'll grow. But having a good runway, knowing how far, and like I said, it might take a little bit longer than you thought. So maybe try to be a minimalist before you
Yeah.
start expanding out is a very good advice there. So where can people reach out to you, Matt?
Yeah. So you can find us at AdventureDesk.com. All one word. And I don't know if you're going to link up my Instagram and LinkedIn. And those are the places to find us. Matt at AdventureDesk.com if you ever want to get in touch with me directly, and love to chat. If there's anyone out there that has a community or thinks they would benefit from a community adventure or retreat, we'd love to talk.
All right, that's great. Oh, actually, no, there's one point I wanted to push back on you. So, what is this? You said motorcade, or sorry, what is that? Motor tours?
Motor coach. So,
coach.
like big bus tours. 40 people and a big bus.
So, what is the least favorite travel option that you enjoy that you don't really want to book for?
Oh, cruises for sure. I should clarify, like large 1,000-passenger cruises, because I love small adventure cruising. In March, I'm going to go to Antarctica with my wife on a 130-passenger vessel. So there's some great adventure cruises out there that take you to unique places. I do not want to be on a 1,000-person cruise ship. That just sounds like a nightmare to me.
Now, let's say is there a magic number that if they said, Matt, we really want to do a cruise thing, is there a number that you would actually consider to say, okay, fine, that's not what I really want to sell, but the numbers seem to make sense? Is there a magic number for you, or you are steadfast at saying no cruises?
It needs to be more about the destination one. So, there's no point in me offering something in the Caribbean for a group of clients. One, like with those, part of it is that I'm not adding any value to that experience, right? Anyone can do it. And so it's not going to reflect well on me if I book you on something like that. But generally 200 passengers and less on a cruise. And the focus has to be nature, wildlife, some element of adventure, excursion, stuff like that. I don't want to spend time figuring out the amenities on the Royal Caribbeans and the Carnival cruises and those kind of things. You're better off contacting someone else that has been on all those boats. Yeah.
All right. Well, awesome, Matt. Thank you for being on the show. It was a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Ken. Thanks for having me.
Hey, do you need an error-free website? Do you need transcription that's accurate and on time? Would you like to remove noise from your video or audio recording? Do you need a spokesperson for your business? If so, we can help. At Northway Capital Group, we are happy to announce that we are now providing website testing services, audio transcriptions, and audio cleanup, as well as spokesperson services. We would love to help you on your next project. Contact us for more information at northwaycapitalgroup@gmail.com.
Thank you for listening to the S.M.E Stories podcast, which is owned by Northway Capital Group. Please follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Northway Capital Group.